Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to our new soulmate reading. So, here we are in the next reading for this series just to find out what has happened since the last time, especially in light of all of the new information that we've been receiving and as we look into the second half of October and so on. So let's go ahead and take a look to see what's happening around their energy and maybe find out a little bit more about some of what we've heard about in the last reading, the last soulmate reading, as well as everything that's kind of come up since then. So that's what we're going to do. It'll be a general reading for this collective. So if it resonates for you, hit subscribe. Check out the other videos, but I will say if you hit subscribe, I just recently had somebody remind me that they hit subscribe, but they forgot to hit notify. So they were missing a bunch of things because it wasn't automatically showing up for them. So if you hit subscribe and then you hit the notify bell, that will be helpful for you. Just to introduce my decks, we have the Alice in Wonderland deck today, and then this is the Fairy Tale Tarot. And then this is, let me make sure I get it right. It's the Divine Abundance deck. I was going to get it right. Okay, so we're going to start out with a card from the Divine Abundance deck. Expansiveness. So we like to start out with a little bit of an overarching message, but a lot of times I guess this deck is just incredibly decisive, but sometimes it can take a little longer to come out. This one, though, feels immediate and like it was just waiting to burst out. And it says, for expansiveness, eternity is far more creative than the rigid, constrained, and exhausted ego. This is a reminder not to limit yourself with expectations or assumptions about a situation, but instead to release those expectations and assumptions, because when you let reality unfold by itself, things can come out very differently than what you might have guessed. And a lot of times, it's more than you ever might have hoped for, but you wouldn't have guessed. You just didn't know that was possible. So don't limit yourself. You've gotten the advice in several of these readings not to limit yourself, particularly as you start moving forward and learning new things. But this is just kind of a little reminder about that. So let's see what is happening around that new soulmate energy now. We have the pair. That is the equivalent of the Lover's card. So there is a sense of choice, but there's also a sense of a little confusion around the choices. Not the kind of confusion where you can't figure out what you're supposed to do, just confusion around what the choices actually are. So that's interesting. It kind of lends a little bit of credence to some of what I've been hearing lately in my meditations around you may have more than one thing to think about. Just remember that when it rains, it pours. You put it out there that you wanted something, and now here they come. So you have the Temperance card in the upright, which kind of talks about how you are likely to embrace all of this, how you're even likely to run across it, it just feels like you're in a much more balanced position than maybe you have been in the past, coming into this second half of October especially. But we've got the King of Spears here in the reverse. There may be a sense of balance and understanding who you are, but there's still a lack of a plan. There's a lack of a plan in some important way. So it seems like you'll be able to dedicate the time and the effort to build the plan or do whatever it is that you need to do there. But the thing to realize is this is something that could end up adding to your plate and leading to a little bit of burnout. So I feel like it's the reason that this is frustrating, or the reason that this creates kind of a bit of a weight for you or contributes to some overwhelm, is the fact that it ends up meaning more to you than you maybe expected. So this reminds me of the very last soulmate reading. So we had a question. We had heard about somebody coming up in the October reading, somebody that's like a good person to know, somebody that is coming in, they're here, they mean business, they're going to get it right. I remember thinking that was very promising. So this is a person that has like some kind of key to your future. Okay, but what really got me, and one of the things that just reminded me was like, there will be this, that passion with them will not be the first thing you think of. But then the level that it hits is not afterthought level. Okay, so you'll be thinking, oh gosh, what have I said so far? And that's kind of what I feel here. This is a realization, oh boy, this is maybe more important than I gave it credit for, and now I have to remember what sort of path I've put out there so far. So just realize there is definitely something about that happening on both sides. It's not just you. Interesting. So just kind of understanding what's happening around their energy. This feels very imminent. It feels very human. Eight of Wands in the reverse. A lot of movement that suddenly turns into very little movement. Getting in touch with, getting in touch with that intuitive side. And for you, that may be something that's almost second nature at this point. I do get the sense that this person has maybe lost touch a little bit. Not that they've never had touch, but they've kind of lost touch a little bit with that intuitive side. And it's possible they never had a good connection there to begin with. But I get the sense that they're regaining some connection that has been missing for a while, because something has changed. So there's a little bit of kind of an unwinding that has to happen. Initially, upon a change, all of the adjustment doesn't just come out of nowhere. There has to be this realization, oh, here's something else that needs to happen. And the realization that something needs to happen is not necessarily going to mean that it happens. Like it's not necessarily going to be all it takes. There's still going to be some motivation required, maybe a little bit about timing. I feel like there's something here about diplomacy and timing. Something is changing with this person, and there is something about diplomacy, timing. They've recently gotten opportunity or license to move a little bit more freely in some way, but it's a lot has opened up for them. Thankfully, it also feels like there's been a moment for them to think about it, even if it hasn't been much of a moment or won't be much of a moment. We have the Five of Cups, a sense of sadness. This is part of what they're going to be wondering. So I mentioned, like, you would be wondering what you said so far. What have I said? Oh gosh, I'm want to make sure now that I realize this might be more important, so I want to have some idea of what sort of impression I put out there. They're having that as well, but they're having that on top of kind of feeling sorrow for having messed something up. So this is a person who has been kind of through something recently, or is maybe still going through it, and yet they're willing to make a fairly significant change. So even on the heels of some challenging lessons. I mean, it feels like challenging lessons. It feels like their life is expanding, their soul is expanding, they're becoming a different sort of person, but they're doing it relatively gracefully. I feel like maybe that's something the two of you have in common, although similarly in common. You might not quite have the right amount of respect for how good it looks from the outside, because you've heard this one about you several times, and I think the same is true of this person. It looks a little bit more graceful from the outside than it feels from the inside as to how you're working, what sort of work um, or what sort of progress you're making. So we have a Six of Pentacles here. Somebody's getting a bad deal and it feels like they know it but haven't figured out how to extract themselves from it yet. And then with the Page of Cups, that is not talking about something. It's not talking about and not doing. It's letting something go by. So there's almost a sense of this person wanting to remain quiet for a moment to allow something to pass. Not necessarily related to you, but it may seem like they are preoccupied or focused elsewhere momentarily, and it seems like that is based on this thing that they've kind of been experiencing or what they've been going through. So through all of this, it's got kind of this there's a feeling of moodiness. This person seems moody to me compared to the way they usually are, but there's also a feeling of like imminence. Something is happening or about to happen almost immediately. So usually there's not really any time in tarot. So when we look at how long it's going to be for something to happen, oftentimes what you get is here's what has to happen ahead of time. That could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 years. It really just kind of depends on the people and their level of development, and that's fine. I think we can accept that, except that sometimes you get this sense of, hey, this feels like it's right on top of you. And so this is something that does feel like it's happening right now. So this feeling of this pause feels kind of current. You know, this person's been going through something and the energy is really just pausing for a second. And that sense of both of wondering what you've said so far, you know, that feels like it's relatively current or will be happening very soon. The piece about them not getting the right end of the deal, but they haven't really figured out how to extract themselves, that is current. And they aren't ready to talk about it yet. Let's get a sense for what this person wants, because I also get the feeling that you may have to interact with them on some level in the near term, given what we've just seen. So what does this person want, particularly from this relationship and right now? Let me see what I dropped down there. Whoa. Okay, so I think all of that is, yeah, face down. Okay. So we have hedgehogs. Hedgehogs are earth energy. 6 of hedgehogs is, okay, so this thing where somebody's not getting the good end of the deal, it's them. They're not getting the good end of the deal. What I'm unclear about is where that's coming from. Like, is that it's clearly some third party. If you and they are the first and second party, then anything else is considered third. One person asked me, like, can we have a third and a fourth and a fifth? They're all considered third party energies, but that was kind of hilarious. So with this, though, we've got somebody giving them less than their worth. And with this 6 of hedgehogs over here, something is getting right. They want things to get right. They want to feel the sort of balance that they are catching off of you. Okay, so there is something there about, oh, yeah. So remember what we saw in the October reading, in the last Eyes to the Horizon reading, the last new soulmate reading. We saw this person who is like, they know exactly what they want from you and they want to partner with you in some way because of what you bring to the table, okay? And so they have this awareness of the calm, cool, collected level that you seem to be bringing. They don't understand what's under the surface and that you are just as human as they. But I think that's something that they are also able to accept. Okay, so it's not something that they aren't going to be able to handle when you have the conversation, if you have the conversation. So you have the 6 of hedgehogs here saying they just want to be treated right. The Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. I'm skipping a step with the meaning of this card. So if you look it up in the book, it's not going to be what it means. But basically, they want somebody to stand next to them while they experience some change. They don't want to have to go it alone. Okay, and then we have a Knight of Flowers. They want to have somebody to do something nice for. Okay, so this is that sense of them feeling like you are kind of high maintenance and them thinking that they are kind of high maintenance and them thinking, you know what, I would like to maintain that. I would like to maintain that. And I would like for you to maintain me. So it is high maintenance meets high maintenance and is actually very, very happy about it. Then the 2 of you continue to work through some lessons as we saw last time. And these are lessons that don't hurt as much as the last round. Lessons that kind of pull you forward together. So you're able to have what you need, but you don't need as much. We talked about a super confident union of souls where, you can come together and determine if you want to stay together or if you don't. And it feels like it's all just very copacetic, very positive. But this is the feeling of somebody who wants to do things for you. They want to give. They want to have that equal give and take. So this is a very powerful sort of feeling. When we look at what this person wants, they want to have that equal give and take. And that's very important. In fact, it feels like it is critical for them. They don't really want anything else. 5 of Pentacles, like they don't want anything less. We have the 5 of Pentacles here saying that there is still a fair amount of work that this person needs to do on themselves, but they want the protection, not the protection, they want the space to be able to do it. Two of Swords, ready to make a choice. They want to be, they don't want to have to, there's this sense of, I don't want to mess around anymore. I just want to be able to trust and go forward and be honest, and not have to look over my shoulder. I want to be able to focus on the right things and not have to focus on whether or not the person that I'm with is the right person or the trustworthy person, or they just want to be able to work on themselves in peace. That's not, I mean, it doesn't seem like it should be too much to ask. We know from experiences of the folks in this collective that it can be too much to ask of some situations. So we have this Nine of Wands coming out. This feels like a little bit of what they need worked on or what they need to work on. So they are feeling defensive in some ways, or a little bit wounded, I guess, in some ways. That feels a little bit like they want to be protected and coddled for a little while, but they also want to give that same thing to you. It feels like they want to give and receive both of those things on a level that kind of can't be done at the same time. So I can really applaud the spirit of it. However, they're going to have to pick one or the other. And I think that's something that becomes evident. Their intention is incredibly positive, and you will pick up on this fairly quickly, fairly immediately. I'm curious to know about this super confident union of souls. Like, what are you supposed to do to create that? Because they're trying to bring what they are trying to bring that. They're trying to bring their level of humanity and honesty, integrity. They want to bring the best of everything to this, but they don't necessarily know what that means. It's not a person that they've ever been. So this could be your divine masculine, who's, some of you, that's who it is. Some of you, it is your divine masculine who is finally turning over that leaf. And I know we've had a couple of waves of divine masculine and divine feminine unions coming into union, people coming into union. And so the first wave was bigger than the second one, as far as I'm aware. I know that many of you that came into union kind of bounced back off one another. Gonna have to try and give it another go. I don't know of anyone who made use of both of those rounds. However, this is that feeling of wanting to try. This is a person trying to get something right. And for some of you, that is going to be that divine masculine wanting to try coming into union. Healing, and feeling safe together, feeling comfortable, feeling as though the guidance is there. The thing that you have to watch out for is that the guidance can get a little bit heavy in both directions. So watch out for them pontificating too much, or for you pontificating too much, because no one's desire is to be overbearing or over explaining, but the both of you have a lot of passion around what you have experienced and what you've been through. So it's a matter of not what you say so much as how you say it. That's good stuff, though. Everything that comes out over here as far as what they want feels like greater integrity. It feels like doing for you the things that you want done for you. It feels like wanting somebody to stand by them while they do their learning, while they continue to grow. That is all very consistent with what I hear from you as far as what you want from a situation. So be keeping your eyes open for this one. It looks very positive. I'm still enthralled by this concept of the confident union of souls, the super confident union of souls, and just want to get a feel for, what do you need to be doing to help create that? So how to create that super confident union of souls after all you've been through. That's you, that's them. They're going through something now. So let me see what I just dropped. Okay, that is face down. And we have the King of Hedgehogs. Hedgehogs, again, are earth energy. So that's like the King of Pentacles, but in the reverse. Incidentally, flowers are fire energy. I don't think I explained that one earlier. And spears are air energy. If we get teacups, those will be emotion. Those will be the water energy. So the King of Hedgehogs here in the reverse. This one really, so this is interesting. This has to do with figure out what you don't know. Figure out where your weak spots are. Don't be afraid to show them, but be aware of where they are. So figuring out where your weak spots are. Keep looking. There are some things that you've shored up that you are going to think are weak spots, and when you get in to look at them, you're going to discover they are not anymore. You'll be pleased with those. And then you're going to find some things that maybe you thought you already resolved and that are not resolved. So that's another thing to consider. All right, we got, let's see here. What was the top one? Boy, it's buried in there a little bit. Okay, so we have the star in the reverse, reminder, and a page of teacups. There's the emotion. Okay. All right. So there are a couple things going on here, and it has to do with ultimately fears. With this one, I'll start here. With this one, it's about don't let your fears get the better of you. The more you are able to live out loud, to experience this person out loud, to not be afraid of what they claim to bring to the table. Remember, this is a person who is supposed to, you're going to underestimate them, and they're going to pleasantly surprise you, even though they're going through their own things, you know. Remember what they said about they're here, they mean business, and they're going to get it right. So you have to let them in to a certain degree in order to allow this to be possible. But it can't be so far that if they do fail you, you can't handle it. So you've got to find that balance. Now, we've also got the star in the reverse, which is that reminder, like I was saying, about when you are experiencing something that feels like a setback but isn't really. That's something that has come up a lot. It even came up in, so it came up in the second half of October reading. I think it was the first card that came out. And then it came out in the members reading. I did a members reading. That was the question that someone had asked. So if you're a member, you get these videos just as soon as they're uploaded, which is, you know, sometimes a day early. And it's often a day early. But somebody had asked this question about, tell us more about the second half of October, because it feels like things are opening up, and should we trust that feeling? So we dug in a little bit more, and one of the first cards to come out was that star card in the reverse. Hey, remember, this might look a little hairy, but it's actually supposed to be this way, that kind of vibe. So the link to join, if you guys ever want to join, is down there. It's one of those things where you can join, you can get rid of it, you know. It's you can come and go as you please. It's a monthly membership. There's 3 different levels, and they really cater to 3 different usages. So if you've got somebody that, if it's like you just want to get videos early and you want to be able to see the members videos, then that's level 1. It's pretty inexpensive. Then there's level 2 for people who get a lot of personal readings. Okay, so those are the ones where if you get a personal reading every month, then you pay for a personal reading every month, and I kind of couldn't stand it. So I built that one for people who, they get all the, like, the videos early and stuff like that, but they also get a monthly personal reading just as part of it. So it's at a discount, right? And then the other level is kind of an all-in level. That is 2 personal readings a month. It's a quarterly Zoom. We get together and we hash some stuff out. I pull some cards. Pretty cool. No 2 of them look the same. And like I said, they're totally different levels. But that's the members reading. If I ever talk about that and you're just wondering what it is, because I know we have some new people here. So I was going to go ahead and jump back in here. I wanted to understand, again, how do we create that super confident union of souls? You know, how do you do that? So recognizing this is finding your humanity, figuring out what you still have to go through, and then doing it eyes wide open, head held high. It's a beautiful thing. It really is a beautiful thing. We have that Temperance card here in the reverse, recognizing what's not perfect about you. So the thing is, you're going to say that, you're going to look at that, and maybe you say, oh, I don't have any illusions about perfection. I really don't feel like I was portraying myself as perfect. And so perhaps you're not, or you haven't been. I thought there was another one in here. And perhaps you haven't portrayed yourself as, you know, having this perception of being perfect or anything. But there is a sense that you hold yourself to the ego a little bit more, so that you can have expectations, which over here are the same expectations that you're being recommended to let go of. But it also allows you to sleep at night because you feel like, well, at least I'm not this other thing. Well, it turns out maybe you are. And it's maybe not a big deal or a problem, not like you think it is, but you can't address it until you look it straight in the eye. You know, it's that sort of thing. So that feels harsh, but I'm just putting that out there as an example of it happens to me all the time. So it is harsh. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I look at something and go, oh, wait, I suck too. Okay, yeah. And then I sit with it and I do the best I can to resolve it. And sometimes it's complete resolution, and other times it's, well, I'm glad I saw that. Now I have to control against it, you know. And that is the sort of thing that shows up with this Temperance card. So it is being brutally honest with yourself. Two of Wands is, what are those bridges you haven't crossed? What this is the success in this relationship and creating that super confident union of souls is believable, that it has a lot to do with kind of what you're seeing over here. This is being willing to truly admit to yourself where those shortcomings may be, where those may lie. Let me see what just fell. More cards face down. A lot of dropsies with the cards face down today. Okay, let's see here. So we have the Star in the reverse. I knew that was coming out. I should have said it. I was like, well, and, you know, it's going to come out of both decks anyway, because I pictured this in the reverse when I said that. And I realized this is doubling down on that message. Good grief. Okay, one double down at a time. So doubling down on the message that, yes, it may look like a setback. No, it is not. This is not a setback. This is a promotion if you choose to accept it. Then you've got the Ace of Swords here. Telling the truth to yourself kind of ties in with that concept around the Temperance card. Then we've got the, so this is about making sure you're being very honest with yourself, because that's going to be what enables you to truly identify the gaps that you have, to truly be able to say, okay, so there are some things about me that aren't so great. Maybe it's not a setback. Maybe I just belong here for a minute, you know. And it's kind of interesting because it feels like the way that you're going to rise from that and kind of catapult from that is the opposite of what I feel here. Oh, you get both of these. Are we still going? Nope, just those. Okay. Yeah, I never know how many I'm going to get. I go until the glow is gone. And then sometimes the cards kind of tell me that I missed one. Okay, so with the Emperor in the reverse, this is about a need for control that falls away, and that's what's going to give you that super confident union of souls, which makes sense. Again, all of this makes sense. It just feels a little brutal. And the thing that comes out to me here is realize how much, no, you probably don't realize how much of this work you have already accomplished. So when you start getting in here and you hear these things, so first off, if any of this offended you or kind of rubbed you the wrong way like it did me, that's my cue to come back in here and re-listen to it, and write some things down, pause it, and be like, okay, self, I'm not going to show anybody this, so what exactly needs to be on this list? What are those things that fit into that Temperance card or that Ace of Swords? Where am I lying to myself? You know, the Two of Wands. Which bridges haven't I crossed? Where am I not measuring up in some way or perceive that I'm not? What you'll discover is the ways that you are. And that's one of the reasons that's so wonderful. So this Emperor kind of gets tossed out. It reiterates this message. The Emperor of over control gets tossed out of your life. It's a reiteration of this message here that says eternity is far more creative than the rigid, constrained, and exhausted ego. So instead of trying to plan your way forward in a controlled way, let it go. Let what needs to come in, and be willing to start something wholly new. That is something wholly new with this person. It could be a person with whom you have experience and now you have to trust again. So this is not saying do it quickly, or this is saying this is ultimately what it's going to require in order to have that super confident union of souls. So awesome. I'm actually going to stop this here. I got this feeling I thought I was going to do a different one in the extended, and I'm feeling like it's not time yet. So we will pick it up. the messages will come out. These readings are all very much connected, so I can't tell if it's going to come out in like a new soulmate reading or if it'll come out in the next one. Next one's actually going to be the third party reading, so the third cup. This person is being messed with a third party. So if you're talking about a divine masculine who may be being impacted by some third party behaviors, that could be relevant, and it may show up in that reading that we do next. So I think that one will be tomorrow. In the meantime, keep me posted on how things are going. I know there's a lot of change happening for a lot of you, and I know some pretty raw messages came out over there. We know that this is the autumn of letting go, but that doesn't just make it easy. Soon we're going to be looking into messages around Scorpio, where, let me reach over and get my Virgo card. Concept for Virgo was, again, these new beginnings. And then for Libra, we've had the initiation of the crossing, the initiation of kind of the crossing of the bridge. And there's a lot of bridge definition going on with that too, which I think is helpful in finding closure, letting go, figuring out where you really stand. So is this. And this is what's going to enable you to move into that really positive relationship, that confident relationship with this new soulmate. Whoever it is that comes in bearing this new soulmate energy, which is what it could be, somebody that you already know, or it could be somebody new that you're dealing with. So like I said, please keep me posted. I'm going to wrap this up for now. I love you all. I'll see you in the next reading.